So a few weeks back on this channel, we tested out the JSAUX transparent backplate for the Steam Deck, and something that I wasn't actually anticipating making a very large difference was this metal plate back here on the back. It actually makes contact with some things internally and allows it to dissipate heat in a sort of passive way. And in my testing, this made a fairly substantial difference, not necessarily to performance, but to the fan speed that the device actually needed to run at, and also just the overall thermals. It did actually help make the device cooler, or it allowed the device to work less hard at being cool. Now, there is another product that JSAUX sells, and today we're going to be looking at that. We have here the cooling fan for Steam Decks. We're going to jump over to a different camera angle here, take a look at this thing because they just sent it to me, install it on the deck, and begin testing. So you guys may have seen a video kind of like this in the past on my channel where I took another cooling fan and I stuck it directly to this area here. This was a fan that I think used the Peltier effect or something like that. And I thought, hey, if it's sticking right here and we're cooling off this square that gets very warm now, maybe that will help. And the end result was that it did effectively nothing. This fan is very different because it is meant to sit right here in line with the existing fan and basically augment the system already in place. It's not going to be utilizing this passive cooling. This will continue just doing what it's doing. This is simply going to give the fan that's already here, you can see it right there, a boost. And honestly, I think there are some pretty intelligent design choices being made here. First off, the way that actually attaches to your device is with adhesive. That is a sticky area there. You may be thinking to yourself, man, I don't want this brick attached to my device all the time. Well, don't worry about it because it actually comes apart. So then most of the time, if you don't want to use the fan, that's all you're going to have attached to the device at that point. That's not too bad at all. Of course, this should also be compatible with their Modcase. I should be able to sort of slide it over that. Yeah, and that will have the same effect without needing to use any sort of adhesive. But either way, as long as you got this little doohickey sitting on your device, you are good to go. As for how it works, basically you have your intake here and your exhaust here. So like I said, it's just going to sit on top of the exhaust that's already here, using this exhaust as the intake and then firing it out even faster. Again, just increasing that airspeed leaving the Steam Deck. So let's go ahead and actually install the thing, which again should be very simple. Should just be able to peel this off. Let's get it kind of lined up here. Just like that. And I guess we'll just kind of apply a little bit of pressure. And that is on there. That is on there pretty darn good. Now, another really intelligent thing about this, there was a problem with the other fan, was that it needed an external power supply. If you plugged it directly into the Steam Deck, it was just barely enough power to make it run. It would kind of not want to run at first, and then it would start. It was kind of a pain in the butt. This thing has a USB-C port on the bottom because there is a battery in here, and you can actually just turn the thing on with this knob, and it is now running. Can you hear that? I can actually use this as a fan. It feels quite nice on my face right now. This is just operating freely like that. So you can just charge this thing up and use it as you please. No need to have it plugged into anything else. And when you want to use it, just slide it into place like so. We are installed and we are off and running with our, augmented fan. So the next step for this review is to fire up a game and let that thing run in a relatively intense area. I'm going to go with Horizon Zero Dawn because it's a fairly difficult game for the Steam Deck to run. We're going to stand there and let as much time go by as necessary for this thing to get thermally saturated. We're going to see what our fan speed is. We're going to see what our FPS is. We're going to see what our temperature is reading. Then we're going to turn on the fan and see if any of those numbers change. So to make this a bit easier to see, rather than using the Steam Deck screen, we are using this lovely external OLED monitor from Innocin. And let's take a look here at what we've got going on. So we are sitting at, fluctuating to 105% GPU utilization. That's pretty good. CPU sticking closer to 50, 59, some 60s in there. And then the fan speed is at 63, 62, kind of hanging in that area. The GPU is 78.5 degrees Celsius. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the fan from JSAUX, hook it up, and fire it up, and let's see if this changes. It is definitely much louder than the stock fan, which was audible. This is much more audible. So like I said, we were at 78.5. Look at that dropping. We're already down to 78.0, 77. We're going to pause for a minute and pick this back up and see how far this thing actually does drop. So it looks like things have normalized at this point. And the biggest difference here is the temperature. I've seen it kind of hovering around the 72, low 72s, high 71 range. It seems like this is pretty much where it's going to stop. Also, look at the fan speed. Now, keep in mind, this is not the external fan we're talking about. This is the built-in fan. We have dropped from, what was it before, in the low 6,000, 62, 6,300, into the, let's say, mid to high 5,000s, 5,600, 5,700. Now, to make this clear, the frame rate has not really changed in any appreciable way. The CPU, the GPU utilization, these things are not going to change in any appreciable way. But what is going to change are your temperatures and your internal fans. Honestly, this thing did a far better job than I was expecting with that other Peltier effect fan on that heat sink on the back of the transparent back plate. I thought I might get a couple of degrees and I got nothing. So with this, I thought, well, maybe this will get me a couple of degrees. I was not anticipating it getting double, basically a couple of degrees. It did much more than I was expecting it to do. Now, you may be asking, what is the point of that if it's not improving my frame rate? Well, I mean, to be honest with you, there's not like a great reason to be doing this because this device is designed to run at the temperatures that it runs at. So lowering it isn't really going to get you a higher frame rate. However, there are some reasons to want to run your device at a cooler temperature. And most of them just come down to longevity. Batteries in particular are things that don't like getting super duper hot. So maybe shaving, 4 or 5 degrees off here and there might cause that battery to live a little bit longer. Maybe that thermal paste doesn't dry out quite as quickly. I mean, we're talking about very, very tiny amounts. Some people are just going to want to look at those numbers and see that the temperature is lower, and that's going to be satisfying for them to see. It's up to you to determine why you want your temperatures to be lower. All I can tell you is that this fan from JSAUX does exactly what it says it's going to do on the box. It does indeed lower the temperatures of your device, and if you combine it with their transparent back case, that's also going to lower the temperature, like a surprising amount. If I'm remembering correctly, it was like a couple of degrees just by having that heatsink. So combined with the two of them, we're sitting like 6, 7, 8 degrees cooler than we would have been stock. And that is pretty doggone cool. And again, might lead to better longevity. Guys, I'm going to drop links to all of the stuff I've talked about in the description down below. They will all be affiliate links of some kind. So if you use them, that will help support this channel in some way. So keep that in mind going forward, guys. If you want more coverage like this, subscribe to see that on this very channel. I will see you on the next one. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.